Welcome back to another edition of the Disney Dish podcast with Jim Hill. It's me, Len Testa, and this is our show for the week of January 13th, 2020. On the shows today, the news, and Disney releases some new hotel discounts. Plus, in our main segment, Jim shares some newly discovered details about Disney's never-built space pavilion in Epcot. Let's get started by bringing in the man who can relate to blenders because he also screams while doing his job. It's Mr. Jim Hill. Jim, how's it going?
I'm doing well, Len. And speaking of screaming, just a little-known piece of Disney World trivia here. If you chant, I scream, you scream, we all scream for ice cream 30 times in a row, the staff of Beaches and Cream is allowed to lob an ice cream scoop straight at your head without any professional repercussions.
Well, that's interesting. The laws in Osceola County around assault with ice cream scoops. Very specific.
Okay, I get it. Now, mind you, so again, just limit the chanting to 29, rein it in, folks, because otherwise,
Or fewer.
No repercussions but a concussion.
All right. Jim, let's do a quick shout out to subscribers over at disneydish.bandcamp.com. Thanks to new subscribers Ian C., Carter B., and John R., and longtime subscribers Gary and Michelle, Ray K., and our good pal Brian H. These folks have been driving the Magic Kingdom's Main Street vehicles since the park opened in 1971. They were kids back then, of course, but remember that child labor laws were a lot more relaxed back in those days. I'm also told that if you're a Florida resident, Brian H. will loan you the Main Street fire engine for the driving portion of your Florida driver's license test as well. True story.
So they've been doing this for 49 years. You live in Florida a lot of the year, Len. You're familiar with the concept of the Q-tip? The little white head you can only just see over the driver's seat?
Yes, exactly.
I'm a little concerned. 49 years at the wheel. Just... Oh.
They started when they were young, Jim. It's fine. It's absolutely fine. What could possibly go wrong?
Okay.
There's a horn on those things, and it is speed regulated to a few miles an hour.
Okay. All right. I'm just going to stick on the curb for now. Okay.
He says, walk on the sidewalks, folks. Walk on the sidewalks. Jim, every show should begin with a round of self-congratulations. In our last show, we said that a free dining discount would be coming out for Walt Disney World, and it did. However, the dates are really limited. 2 nights in June, 3 nights in July, and 11 nights in August and September. So just 16 nights total. Jim, what do you make of this?
The 11 nights in August and September. These days, there is really no slow time at the Walt Disney World Resort. But if you're going to classify a particular time at the resort as slow, that August to September window really does work. The other stuff, to be honest, it almost feels like the token gesture, to the effect of, the 2 nights in June, 3 nights in July.
Yeah, so it's June 27th and 28th, July 5th, 6th, and 7th. And that's it. Those are really limited dates. The other thing is that you have to book this discount. You have to get your deposit down by January 16th, so this coming Thursday. So that makes me think this is just round one of a series of very targeted discounts. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't be surprised to see additional free dining, like how September 12th and September 16th for you, but not the dates in between.
Got it. The dates in June is the 27th and the 28th. Is that correct? Or?
Yeah, just 2 nights.
Okay. That's the weekend before 4th of July.
And the other days are the days after 4th of July. So it's the week, it's the couple of days around the week of 4th of July. Mm-hmm. Interesting.
We've seen Disney, the different pricing structures for, if you're willing to go, midweek or to go to a park afternoon, something like this to literally get people away from the 4th of July, which is, again, one of the busiest times for the resort, especially with the 4th this year falling on a Saturday.
That means everyone's going to get the Friday off, which makes it a long weekend for everyone. So that makes sense.
Yeah. So don't even bother to get on a plane to go to Orlando on that weekend. I mean, you won't make it out of the airport.
the line forms here.
Yeah. So, wow.
The other interesting thing is Disney released a second discount. Mm-hmm. With wider availability. This is a room-only discount up to 25% off Disney Deluxe Villas and Deluxe Resorts, 20% on the moderates, and 15% on the value resorts. Mm-hmm. It's valid most days in April, so the 1st through the 25th, and then also April 26th through July 9th, and then July 10th to September 12th. So the discount goes for those 3 periods, 10% in April, 15% from April 26th to July 9th, and then 15% again through September 12th. The interesting thing about this discount is you've got about 2 weeks less to book it than in past years. So I looked on mousesavers.com. They've got a list of historical discounts, basically every discount that Disney released this decade, including the details and when the offer was released. Disney's cutting back on how long you've got to book these. So when you combine that with the free dining offer, which has to be booked by this coming Thursday, it seems like Disney has this trend here of saying, here's a discount, it's super targeted, and you don't have much time to think about it.
If we're talking strictly lip service, you can say to your travel agent, look, we have made discounts available for your clients. It's the joke from The Jerk, to the effect of when you played the game at the carnival, anything from between the pencil and the eraser on the top shelf, those prizes, you can choose between just those.
It makes me think that that this is an initial set of discounts that rather than Disney keeping this room only discount out for, available for 5 months or whatever. They're basically allowing a contingency to say, if this discount doesn't work, we'll offer another one after that.
That certainly makes sense. And going into the fall, as they start to march out their 50th anniversary promotional campaign, you have to wonder, given the number of people who will actually whoa, let me hold back. I want to do Cosmic Rewind. I want to do,
Good point. So that's interesting. So we must be hearing more information about that after the second half of the year. Because if you look on the discounts, especially the room only discount, like the discounts for July 10th through September 12th, you've got to have that booked by February 26th. Right, so basically you have to give Disney 4.5 months advance notice to take it, and it is the best discount. It's the steepest discount of the it's 5% more than the other discounts.
Oh, certainly.
But that tells me that they're going to either announce something or they're trying a plan B for those dates in case it doesn't work out.
Makes sense.
All right, so we'll watch that and keep seeing what happens there. Jim, speaking of hotels, over at Pop Century and Art of Animation, have you seen the news about bus service to the studios and Epcot now once per hour instead of ongoing, with signs at the bus stop encouraging everyone to use the Skyliner? Jim, you said this was going to happen, and it has.
Remember, the caveat here is that should the Skyliner line go down at any one time, they immediately divert back to the old new bus every 10 minutes, 15 minutes, that sort of thing.
They'll just use bus service, then. Yeah.
But this sort of speaks volumes about, at this point, after a couple of months of solid operation, Disney is confident enough to go, okay, let's use this in this way and, see if we could adjust people's behavior.
And I don't know if it's just an observation on my part or if I'm biased or if it's actually a trend, but the number of people who've emailed me about staying at the Caribbean Beach resort for their upcoming vacation and people asking for information about it, like where to stay and how the Skyliner works and things like that, dramatically increased over years past. And this comes on the heels of me saying for years that Caribbean Beach is the one hotel that you shouldn't stay at in Walt Disney World because the guest satisfaction numbers were so low. But apparently the Skyliner has piqued so much interest in people for a moderately priced resort on the Skyliner line that they're willing to give Caribbean Beach at least a shot in terms of booking their vacation. So Disney's got to like that, right?
Oh, God, yeah. To have something that sat in the inventory since 88 and suddenly become the hot new hotel, what's not to love there?
Yeah, they got to be super, super happy with that. So that's fantastic. Speaking of Epcot, Jim, our friends over at wdwmagic.com have noted that with all of the construction going on in Future World, especially the stuff going on in Interventions West, a number of character meet and greets have been moved around. So I guess we could call this, instead of the 12 tribes of Israel wandering around, this is the 6 character groupings. So Mickey Mouse is now was wandering the desert and is now in the queue area of the Disney Pixar Short Film Festival.
To be fair,
which is really a really interesting place. I mean, they've got the space for it over there.
They do. And there's a certain method to Disney's madness here. Remember that on the other side of the 50th anniversary, we're getting a large-scale redo of the Imagination Pavilion and understand that a lot of ideas are being floated. And so the notion of, okay, let's put Mickey over there and see what sort of reaction he gets. And
It's one of the pavilions in Future World that needs as much help as it can get. So putting the big draw over there is...
No. It's a brilliant temporary move, but more to the effect that just sort of like, okay, if we put an A-list character in here, what happens? Anticipate you're going to see a lot of folks with clipboards or a lot of folks with tablets.
Yeah, counting, right? 1, 2, counting the number of people that come in.
There
That'll be a... No word. So I guess they're not doing FastPass for those things anymore because there's no way to do FastPass for those.
And especially during.
Well, first, I think the big thing here is because the fact that the characters are so distributed, the lines will be much smaller.
That's the other thing that's frankly fascinating about this plan is that sort of scattering them to the four winds and seeing what happens. Speaking of character-based stuff. We had the announcement of that DuckTales game, which is replacing we had
Phineas and Ferb.
Phineas and Ferb. And, same thing, just using the Disney characters yet again to push people, to distribute people that much more evenly around the park.
Yeah, I'm interested to see how they change the game mechanics from Agent P's World Showcase Adventure for the new DuckTales thing. And I'm also surprised that DuckTales is still a thing, but apparently it's super popular. I started watching some of the series on Disney Plus recently. So,
it's a great show, but sadly, in the new Netflix business model, this third season that's coming up is the last.
So, by the Netflix business model, you mean the fact that Netflix rarely runs a series beyond 3 years because that's when the contracts typically start getting more expensive for production and for actors and things like that.
Actually, I want to say Variety had this fascinating story about how what Netflix has discovered is that audiences typically build in season 1 and season 2, and for some reason, starting at season 3, they start to fall off. So, from a business model, the very thing you're talking about, at the time when the actors get that much more expensive, the time when production, likewise, because you feel like you have to get that much more ambitious to hang on to your audience.
It's everyone's second contract, right?
Yeah, so it's just sort of like, 3 and out. Which is a shame because it is a great take on, the old Disney afternoon show, a fun reboot. And it's sort of in the tradition of the Phineas and Ferb game. I want to say that the Phineas and Ferb game arrived at Epcot just as that show was sunsetting as well.
Was ending, yeah. They need to hit get a game on an up-and-coming series. We'll see what happens. Maybe there'll be the Lizzie McGuire meets Epcot.
Oh, good. Speaking of which...
We're still on season one. Go ahead.
Speaking of which, I don't know if you saw the news. Just today, they shot 2 episodes of the Lizzie McGuire reboot and stopped production and actually let the showrunner from the original series, Terry Minsky, go.
Really?
Yep. I mean, that news literally broke this morning.
No. What happened there?
Evidently, they got 2 episodes in the can, and it was just sort of like, I don't know if this is going to work. Or at least taking this direction with the material. So Terry has agreed to step away. They're going to take a break, find a new showrunner, bring in some new writers. Because on paper, this would seem to be an idea that can't miss. But the whole notion of revisiting this character when she's 30 years old while still keeping her 13-year-old animated self, evidently that's a harder needle to thread than people had originally expected.
Oh, good news. Good news to hear that the show is continuing. All right, Jim, over at Epcot, we've got some dining updates. So the Regal Eagle Smokehouse at the American Pavilion has released its menu. Also, Jim, Sam the Eagle from the Muppets is the mascot. This was announced last week. Jim, why Sam the Eagle?
Well, one might ask, why is Ratatouille in France? Or why is Mary Poppins going into the UK? Or, as we talked about on the last show, why is Meet and Greet for Raya and the Last Dragon going to be added to China? It's all about bringing the characters to Epcot, Len. And
okay, yeah, I get that. But why this Muppet character? I mean, the Muppets don't have a TV series. There's no movie in production. They own the Muppets, of course, but why Sam the Eagle? Why the United States? Why the United States Pavilion? Is it because we named this thing Regal Eagle? We needed an IP character that was an eagle. A quick look at the Disney Wikipedia page for characters says the only eagle we've got is Sam.
Well, you're not entirely wrong, but there was that very well-received series of commercials with the Muppets over the holiday season for AT&T. I'm blanking the technology that. How successful can the commercial be, Len? When I remember the Muppets in it, but I can't remember the product. On the other hand, over the holiday season, great moments in history with the Muppets came back at the Magic Kingdom. Got great notes. There is, in fact, a Muppet TV series coming to. In fact, it was listed as part of the trailer for 2020 for Disney Plus. So there is a Muppet resurgence happening.
It's one of those things where they're just going to keep trying the Muppets till they find something.
You're not wrong. You're really not wrong.
And I'm fine with that. I mean, I think that the Muppet characters in the right spots can be endearing and charming for the Disney parks. Jim, my note on the menu, though, the menu for Regal Eagle Smokehouse, the American platter is choose 3 meats, garlic toast, and 1 side. I believe the side is Lipitor that you can pick. because Jim, the meats are Memphis dry rub pork ribs, Kansas City smoked half chicken, a barbecue burger, a sliced Texas beef brisket sandwich, North Carolina chopped smoked pork, or a South Carolina smoked sausage. Somehow, this menu also includes a Power Greens salad and a barbecue jackfruit.
We were just talking about lip service, Len.
Exactly. And a barbecue jackfruit burger. I've actually had barbecue jackfruit before. So it's plant-based burger on garlic toast, topped with barbecue jackfruit, served with your choice of side. I don't know what the side would be for that, and the Power Green salad, least expensive thing on the menu. It actually sounds delicious. Yeah, it comes with chilled pulled chicken. I guess you can have that as a side if you want to go vegan or vegetarian on it, because everything else looks vegan on it. So 3 meats, 1 side, which should be your cholesterol lowering drug for that day.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong. Was the defibrillator that they used to use for Alfredos?
I think you know how they redesigned the outside of that area, the seating area there. I actually think that they did it to make it easier for the EMT teams to come in with the stretchers. Okay, these doors need to be slightly wider because when we transport the body out, we're going to need a little bit more room for our hands as we go. I think that's what they're thinking there. Good Lord. Yeah. Jim, speaking of food, Chicken Guy, which is a collab between Guy Fieri and Planet Hollywood, is expanding at Disney Springs, taking over the retail space of Planet Hollywood to provide more seating. What's behind the success of Chicken Guy? I'll say that I was there last weekend when it was still fairly busy. It was sort of like the last weekend of the winter holiday, and it was the week before Marathon Week, which was this past weekend. But there were people standing in line outside, and on a fairly warm day, I might add, to get into Chicken Guy. What's behind the success of this place?
If you actually talk with the people at Disney Springs, and especially when you take into consideration that how much of West Side is still construction site, Chicken Guy is you're coming down out of the orange parking garage, right?
Yep, it's right there.
Right there. And let's face it, if you're about to launch it, if you're going to see a movie or you're about to launch into a retail adventure, it is the perfect position. So you've got to make hay while the sun shines. It's like, okay, for some odd reason, this is caught everybody's fancy. So people are only willing to stand in a line, especially at a place like Disney Springs, for only so long before they then go off in search of the next quick service food option.
Right. I think it helps that they are the only quick service option that you can see from that particular part of Disney Springs. I think the other thing that helps them is the fact that there's always a little bit of a line makes people curious about what's going on inside.
There's such a thing as a good line.
Yeah, it's fascinating to look at.
But on the other hand, I can't tell you the number of times I've gotten in line at a Walt Disney World vacation and accidentally found myself in a bathroom. Right. I thought this was Carousel of Progress. You're like, no.
Where was I on? I think I was there not New Year's Eve. I think it was there December 29th in, I want to say the studios. And there was a line that went out so far that, and I naturally got in the line. It was over by ABC Commissary where it sort of comes out to the front of the Chinese theater. So there's a line that was to actually get into the ABC Commissary, or so I thought, and the line was actually to go to the bathrooms. Yeah, I'm like, I completely wrong. And luckily, a cast member came up and said, "This is the line for the bathrooms. If you want the other line, go there." So, yeah, very strange. Very strange. Speaking of strange, Jim, we're going to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, you're going to tell us about an Epcot pavilion, space-themed pavilion, that was never built. We'll do that right after the break, folks.
Running a business comes with a lot of what-ifs. But luckily, there's a simple answer to them. Shopify. It's the commerce platform behind millions of businesses, including Thrive Cosmetics and Momofuku, and it'll help you with everything you need. From website design and marketing to boosting sales and expanding operations, Shopify can get the job done and make your dream a reality. Turn those what-ifs into... Sign up for your $1 per month trial at shopify.com/special offer.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Commercial Insurance. Business owners, meet Progressive Insurance. They make it easy to get discounts on commercial auto insurance and find coverages to grow with your business. Quote in as little as 8 minutes at progressivecommercial.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company. Coverage provided and serviced by affiliated and third-party insurers. Discounts and coverage selections not available in all states or situations.
So our friend Joseph M. sent us an email about some new documents that were found on the website disneydocs.net. And this is an archival website that serves up documents related to future technology and Disney theme parks, and also the 1964 World's Fair. But anyway, one of these documents, Jim, is a brochure, I guess, produced by Disney for a never-built space pavilion?
Yeah, well, it's actually the presentation booklet for when Disney in March of 96 was trying to line up a sponsor for this attraction. And this is one of these bizarre things where Disney history keeps folding in on itself. You know, how much of what they were planning on building in 96 actually makes use of the original space pavilion that John DeCure and Ray Bradbury were trying to do. And from the day Disneyland opened, you had the option of adventures that took you to space, whether it was the Space Station X-1, that walk-in attraction that was eventually renamed Satellite View of Earth, where you're standing looking at a giant diorama of the United States. And what was fun about it was that as supposedly the Earth revolved, America would slide into darkness, and suddenly all these lights would come on, and you could see New York City and LA and all that, and then a rocket to the moon, which became Mission Mars back in the day, and of course things like Astrojets and Space Mountain. So Disney has always been in the space business, at least when it comes to its theme parks. But by the mid 70s, here's Epcot, right? Rising up through development. And so, of course, if we're going by the original 1976 plan for Epcot, World Showcase was actually broken down. There was one half the park. I want to say this was was dedicated to the biosciences. So that's oceanography, food, agriculture, and health. And the other one was based on advances that mankind had made through technology. So we had energy, transportation, and space.
So no communication, no spaceship.
No imagination. No
imagination. Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. And in fact, what's kind of interesting is that I pulled out my copy of the 1977 annual report for Walt Disney Productions, and they highlight as part of this particular annual report Master Plan number 5 for Epcot, and it's got just enough interesting variations on the layout that it's worth noting for a sec. So again, if you think of clock face, 6 o'clock position, of course, is Spaceship Earth.
Okay, and that's what we have today.
That's what we have today. But if we move to the 7 o'clock position, this is where the Life and Health Pavilion was going to go. And
so that would have been where Universe of Energy was.
Right. And then 9 o'clock position is the land. So basically they swapped. Instead of being in the 3 o'clock, that's at the 9 o'clock.
Right.
10 o'clock position is transportation. And of course, that's what World of Goshen eventually became. 12 noon is right at the edge of World Showcase Lagoon is the American Adventure, which is described in this annual report as the gateway to World Showcase. And on the Future World side of World Showcase, not on the other side.
Right. It's the gateway, right, too.
Okay, 2 o'clock position, we've got the Space Pavilion where Imagination went.
Nation is.
3 o'clock is the Seas Pavilion.
Okay, and that's like at the 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock position now.
Yeah, and what's kind of interesting is the 4 o'clock position is the Energy Pavilion. And remember, when we did that show about energy, we talked about one of the things that really concerned Exxon, especially because they were going to have those solar panels on the roof, that it had to be positioned in such a way to, make the maximum of the exposure to the Florida sun.
Oh, right. So that's what. Okay. So once they decided to move the energy pavilion, that's how everything else gets rotated.
There you go. Okay. So anyway, Space Pavilion, sitting where the Imagination Pavilion, would eventually be built. According to the 77 annual report, this attraction was supposed to feature a huge interstellar space vehicle that would transport passengers to the outer frontier of the universe, highlighting man's effort to reach out for the stars around him. And with the idea of it going from the early pioneers who looked up and wondered, to modern-day space travelers and their triumphs, to the challenge of future space technologies and exploration.
Okay.
And they actually have, as part of this annual report, a photo of John DeCure and, again, the noted writer Ray Bradbury looking at the model for the central attraction. And Len, what's kind of intriguing about this is it's kind of the early iteration of soaring.
Soarin', exactly. That's exactly what I thought it was when I looked at it.
Yeah, I mean, it just you have your rounded screen, you have a
huge OmniMax screen, right?
Right, and you have your ride system, which was the giant chunk of an audience, but it was on a gimbal. So the idea was that
so it's they're tiered, right? They're in 3 or 4 levels.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And they're standing, right? They're standing in this iteration.
Yeah. And again, in the soaring tradition, that once the show begins, the ride platform lifts up on this gimbal and then begins to move in concert with the ride footage. So you get that feeling of, okay, I'm moving through space, and there's just enough ascent, because they tilt you forward. You have just enough a feeling of weightlessness that it sells the idea of being in space. And this particular iteration of the Space Pavilion stayed a go project as late as November of 1978. That it was only on October 2nd of 1978 that Card Walker came out and said, okay, we are officially going forward with Epcot, and it will open on October 1st, 1982. But according to the 78 annual report, it's basically the exact same language. Passengers in this huge interstellar space vehicle be transported to the edge of the universe on a journey that highlights our efforts to reach the stars. But what ends up happening is that what Disney honestly hadn't anticipated was the collapse of the aerospace industry in the mid-1970s. Disney did, and to this day, doesn't like making things with its own money. So, so here's Jack Lindquist, the first president of Disneyland, but at this point, he's the front man for Epcot. He's meeting with heads of state. He's meeting with, the heads of major
industry people.
Yeah, that's exactly. And looking for money to build these pavilions. And what ended up happening is poor Jack is going out and meeting with the Lockheeds of the world. And they're like, you understand that Apollo canceled NASA canceled the last 3 Apollo missions, and the Vietnam War is winding down. There's not as much money in aerospace as there once was. So
it was not a good decade for the aerospace or military industries. The 70s were not great to them, right? Because not only that, but you had the Arab oil embargo too in the 70s, right, which drove up the cost of everything.
Yeah, so it's just not a good time to go hand in hand to these folks looking. When you're laying off thousands of people, it's sort of like when we talked about the Kodak update, that the folks in Rochester, New York, were like, look, I know it says in our contract we're supposed to pay to redo the Journey into Imagination Pavilion, but we're laying off thousands of people. I can't give you millions of dollars to do.
It's a contract, not a suicide pact.
Yeah,
right?
That's exactly. So Disney had the exact same issue with the Seas Pavilion, with the Life and Health Pavilion, that they just kept going to industries that weren't having, had no free cash at that point. So these pavilions get pushed to phase 2 at Epcot, and then, of course, that after Epcot opens in October of 82, by October, 1983, the park isn't meeting attendance projections, which brings in the green mailers, and which is why September 84, Michael Eisner comes through the door. And Michael Eisner, it's like, especially with Epcot, he knew his, the priority one was to make that place more entertaining. That's why he rejected out of hand John DeCure and Ray Bradbury's take on the Space Pavilion, because it was, what is the line from Contact that they should have sent a poet?
Right.
Michael wasn't that big a fan of poetry. He wanted thrills. He wanted action. which is why January 14th, 1990, he announces the Disney Decade, which is supposed to be this 10-year expansion plan that will transform the Disney parks. Sadly, most of the stuff that was planned for this got canceled after Euro Disney opened in April of 92 and immediately had financial problems of its own. But one of the highlights of the Disney Decade was, and I'm quoting directly here from the press release, Len, Journeys into Space. They describe it as the long-planned future world attraction will present visitors with the ultimate thrill ride, space travel. New systems and special effects will be used to give guests an outer space experience without ever leaving terra firma. Now, mind you, what's going on during this same period is that GE, which had been the sponsor of the Horizons Pavilion, they were coming up on their 10-year renewal of the pavilion. It opened October 1st, 1983, and they basically indicated to Disney that, we're not renewing. You're going to have to do this on your own. And now here's Disney, knowing that's going on, but walking around looking for a sponsor for Journeys into Space, which borrowed the template from Wonders of Lifeline in that inside of the pavilion, there were supposed to be multiple, experiences that folks could have, 2 and 3 different rides and shows. Though I have to tell you, what I love about this whole story is how much of Disney history folds in on itself. The idea is that you had to journey up to this space station that was orbiting Earth. It started off, you literally stood around this fake campfire and they projected stars around you. But you then boarded a special space elevator that took you.
Why are you under a campfire? Because of the stars?
Yes. The idea is that you're supposed to, primitive man looked at the stars and it looked up to.
Got it. Okay.
Okay. So, but here's the thing, that if you remember how you're supposed to gain access to Space 220, you ride the space elevator.
The new restaurant, the space hydrolators, as it were.
There we go. So here's the attraction they were originally invented for. So, so you go up, you arrive at the space station, which what Disney was going to do to convince you that you were out in space is they were going to be effectively windows, which were actually digital projections in the floor, ceiling, and walls that were.
Oh, again, Space 220.
Right. And that's it exactly. And they were supposed to move in concert to give you the sense that you're orbiting. So you'd look at space, you could look at Earth, as it traveled as it should between the windows.
Sure.
But the big attraction here was supposed to be the spacewalk attraction, where they were going to take a Kuka arm. And again, the first time, the Cougar arm technology would have come into Disney parks, and you were supposed to be able to sit in a chair that you could control. And again, I want to stress here, not control ridiculously, but control with a joystick. And you'd go for a spacewalk outside of the station, and you could, if you wanted, you could watch the stars go by, or if you want, you could turn the arm in toward the station and actually view other aspects of the station, the cruise quarters or the, hydroponics or that sort of thing. And just a 5-minute long experience. And on the other side, it's on an elevated track, and, you then would, return to the space station. But wonderful idea, but Disney wasn't able to find a corporation that was willing to underwrite this cost. And so,
yeah, and especially with technology, I mean, that stuff has to change every couple of years.
Oh no, that's it exactly. So GE steps away. September 30th, 1993, Disney has to carry the full load of operating and maintaining Horizons all by itself. And by fall of 1995, they've just decided this is an untenable situation. We need a corporate sponsor. Let's put together a new pitch for this, for the Space Pavilion. But we're going to do it inside of Horizons. And so a team of Imagineers go away, and this is where the presentation book that just showed up at Disney Documents showed up. And
okay.
All right, this is all about spending as little money on development as possible. So it's just, they literally just pivoted and, for example, rated the files that, for the John DeCure, Ray Bradbury take, particularly the ride mechanism, the giant audience, slab on a gimbal. Then it was a question of, okay, so how do we turn the Horizons building into something different. And the way they describe what they're going to do there is they extend the walls of the Horizon so that when they're done, the building is now shaped like a pyramid, which of course is, something that, over history man is associated with, astrological studies and that sort of thing. They were going to try to keep as much of the Horizons ride system in place. So the pre-show basically was you boarding that old Horizons passenger car, the 4 people seated side by side facing in one direction. And then you went through a series of show scenes that told a story, basically, a man's, love of space. So Act 1 was what we imagined about space using our minds. So,
so like the moon made of cheese thing, which is
astrological science and that sort of thing.
Sure.
Act 2 was what we saw using telescopes. And
telescope, okay.
And then Act 3 was what we experienced once we finally went into space aboard a rocket. And I don't entirely understand this part of the presentation because it's very, very, very heavy on 1950s sci-fi films where it's lots of guys in rubber suits threatening women who are falling out of their gowns.
It could be stuff that people were familiar with, right? So to give them a touch point.
I get that. And Act 4 is what we learned when we reached out into space, thanks to long-range probes like Voyager and Hubble. And so now we get off of the old Horizons ride system.
Well, let me pause you there, Jim. So if this was World of Motion, this would be the chance where we got off the ride system and had the chance to buy our own place on a rocket ship. So maybe Elon Musk is selling stuff or Jeff Bezos is selling stuff there. But okay, go ahead. That's not what happened. Go ahead.
No, I love that idea.
Hey, Disney knows where to send the checks.
There we go.
I'm just saying.
There we go. Okay, so you get off it, but at this point, you now find yourself queuing up for a digital imaging processing center. They at this point in the presentation book, they're not sure if it's going to be based at NASA or they're pretending that this is a facility at the Jet Propulsion Lab in Pasadena. But what eventually happens is that as you're queuing up here, you board you yet another space elevator, a mysterious capsule that takes you up to what's supposed to be a space station, but they are calling it the Speculator.
The Speculator, okay.
And the
capsules. Okay.
Yeah, what this is the exact thing that you described from the original space pavilion that Ray Bradbury and John DeCure designed. So it's a seating area of 150 people. You're standing up, and then once everybody's in place, it's a 6-minute long ride experience. And it actually starts off with a young boy looking into a microscope. In fact, you get to see his eye looking down at you. And the whole notion is that, well, what is space? That they do that kind of powers of 10 thing where, you pull back from Earth and, that suddenly you're in and get the outermost edge of our solar system and then the outermost edge of our galaxy.
Yeah, it's like in movies where they do, they start off in space showing the Earth and they zoom into someone's kitchen, but in reverse.
Yeah, and the climax of this is, you're sort of skipping around the universe, and at one point you're going to the outermost edge of the universe, and you suddenly sort of come to a stop, and it's like, oh dear Lord, we're at the event horizon of a black hole. They're trying to make use of the assets that Disney already has, and there's that amazing stuff that the company did for 1979's The Black Hole. Okay. And
boy, talk about putting IP in Epcot, Jim.
And what's lovely about how they bookended at this is that, remember, we started off with an eye looking at us in, a microscope, and the last image of, before we return to base, so to speak, is of a galaxy that eventually coalesces in such a way that's like, wow, that looks just like a human eye.
Oh, it bookends.
Yeah.
Nice.
So
I love the sketches of what the ride mechanism looked like. So to me, imagine I'm looking at a computer monitor, but from the side, and the computer monitor can tilt.
Yep.
Right, forward and back, right, for eye adjustment. And imagine you're strapped to that, to the face of the monitor, and you're looking out, so that Disney can tilt the monitor up and down, apparently a 25-degree angle.
Yeah,
that's a lot. They actually said that in the booklet, we're going to need to strap people in with safety belts.
But again, the notion of trying to make this as thrilling as possible, because again, remember that's what Michael Eisner wants. He wants thrills. But at the same time, there's a bit of humor to this thing that there's, at one point, you spend about a minute zooming through. Remember on the original Horizons, they'd show those giant rotating space stations with sort of cities, embedded in the side. And you have a human host that joins you with a rocket pack for a few months. And then he apologizes like, I'm sorry, I have to, I promised my family I'd take them to, Space Disneyland. And so,
of course,
and, you get the happiest place off Earth. And again, the reason this presentation book exists at all is because they hand carry it to all sorts of corporations. They're looking for somebody who's willing to, come forward and sponsor, this attraction. And in the end, that just didn't happen. But what Disney was able to do was cut a deal with Compaq.
Compaq, the computer maker.
Yep, Compaq Computer Corporation. And so January 9th, 1999, Horizon closes for good. April of 2000, Compaq and Disney announced that they are partnering to build the thrill ride of the future, Mission Space. And as we all know, that this $100 million attraction makes use of centrifuge technology. It opens August of 2003. However, Disney had kind of a thrill ride of its own because in, I want to say, March of 2002, Compaq Computer Corporation got bought by Hewlett-Packard. And for a moment, Disney was terrified, like, oh, God, we have new corporate masters for this attraction, and we're going to have to make these folks happy. And it turned out Hewlett-Packard could not have been happier to be in business with Disney. In fact, October of 2003. And remember, the Mission Space opened in August of 2003. And they're like, oh, we love working with Disney. Let's do a 10-year alliance. And that went so well that quietly in 2013, they renewed this alliance. And one of the reasons they renewed this alliance was that in October of 2012, Disney bought Lucasfilm for $4,500,000. During this period, we saw Mission Space do its Earth mission, the stable, rather than using the centrifuge technology, there's the one where they just do the fly around of Earth. That has made that so much easier. But what Hewlett-Packard and Disney were working on in the interim was the technology that powers the Millennium Falcon Smuggler's Run.
Ooh. So I knew that NVIDIA was doing the graphics, but HP's doing the technology,
the actual technology.
Oh, we'll have to talk about that.
That we will. But for years, Disney tried to get Ray Bradbury's majestic, poetic version of space up out of the ground. And in the end, what we largely got was George Lucas's version of space, which involves a lot of explosion and crashing into things. So
maybe that's the thing. Crashes and explosions sell, but not when you're talking about space exploration. Maybe that's what we learned today, Jim.
Okay. It makes me feel better about when Nancy and I piloted the Millennium Falcon and managed to hit every single spire in Black Spire Outpost.
There's a reason why we're not controlling the Voyager spacecraft. That's what I'm saying.
This is a good thing.
All right, folks, if you want to see this documentation for yourselves, it's over at DisneyDocs, DOCS.net. And thanks again to our friend Joseph M. for sending this in. That's going to do it for the Disney Dish show today. Please head on over to disneydish.bandcamp.com, where you'll find exclusive shows never before heard on iTunes. On next week's show, we're going to review Epcot's new films, Canada Far and Wide, The Land's Awesome Planet, and the Beauty and the Beast sing-along at France. We are produced fabulously by Aaron Adams, who's guest conducting the Columbus Symphony Orchestra's Russian Winter Festival music show on January 24th in beautiful downtown Columbus, Ohio. He'll also be mixing vodka martinis before the show and during intermission. Talk about a one-man band. Please go on to iTunes and rate our show and tell us what you'd like to hear next. For Jim, this is Len. We'll see you on the next show.